Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Museum Open House. This ongoing series features and highlights many of the outstanding museums and other cultural institutions. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about current and upcoming exhibits, various programs, resources, and other opportunities that are available for the general public. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Stacy Stec. Stacy serves as the Director of Sales and Marketing at LOL Entertainment, which is the parent company of the Museum of Illusions, a franchise of museums that feature interactive exhibits that explore the science of perception and optical illusions. Recently, the Boston Museum opened right across from Faneuil Hall in Quincy Market. During the program, we're learning why and how the Museum of Illusions came about and how it's grown, developed, and operates today. We'll go on a behind-the-scenes tour of the Boston Museum and in the process come to better understand and appreciate the wide range of exhibits, illusion rooms, installations, images, events, and other opportunities that are available for visitors today. Let's start by meeting Stacy and then hearing all about the Museum of Illusions. Welcome, Stacy. So delighted you're able to be here.
Hi, Jay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
A few days ago, I had the wonderful opportunity to visit the museum, had a lot of fun, learned a lot, and I'm eager to go back with family and friends in the near future. Before we hear all about it and learn what's available, I think it would be of interest if you'd briefly share maybe a little bit more about your background, professional interest, or what your position entails, please.
Of course. So I'm currently, as you mentioned, serving as the Director of Sales and Marketing for LOL Entertainment, which is the parent company of Museum of Illusions, Boston. My background actually is in education. That's kind of what I would say really attracted me to Museum of Illusions is the educational component that's involved when you enter the Museum of Illusions. So it's a great mashup of, an educational museum and an attraction that's all about the fun. And as a teacher, I always wanted to make learning fun for my students, and that was really important. It made it meaningful and memorable for them. And I found the same thing with Museum of Illusions. And my professional interests, I would say, center around really building and growing businesses in the location-based entertainment industry. With that, I have the opportunity to create engaging, memorable experiences for visitors. And I'm super passionate about connecting with communities as well. Being a former educator, connecting with youth, connecting with local communities is very important for me as well. I want to ensure that our attraction and museum resonates on a local level while also fostering that sense of wonder and discovery. And with that background in education, I keep going back to it, but I am particularly interested in blending fun and learning, as I mentioned, and crafting those environments where people of all ages can be entertained while also sparking that curiosity and that drive to explore. So the fusion of business development, community connection, and educational enrichment is really, for me, what drives my work every day.
Sure. Well, it's quite noticeable the balance between fun and education. One thing that stands out, and we'll be going on a visual tour soon, are the nice signage that you have through different event. What I particularly liked is in just simple wording what you are trying to experience, but then the explanation, the educational part, explaining what you're experiencing and sort of put that together with actually taking part really made it quite informative indeed.
Yes, that's really the goal is, we want people to have fun, but we want them to walk away knowing a little bit more about vision, perception, and really just how the brain works. There's so much to be learned from optical illusions, and we're hoping to share a little bit of that with guests that come through our doors. In addition to what you mentioned, those explanations about each exhibit and how to view it, we train our staff very well with the exhibits and the illusions, so that way they can share that knowledge and pass that on to guests that are coming in to experience the museum. That's of super high importance for us, and it makes the experience better for all guests.
Well, I just have to add before we get to the actual museum, what you said about the staff really stood out for me. Exceptionally well trained, very informative, very engaging, just so helpful to really get the most out of the visit and the experience. So kudos to you or others who are involved in that aspect of the museum. But with that said, let's move on. And could you just start maybe by sharing the history, why and how the museum came about?
Course. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's a really interesting story, to be honest. So actually in 2015, the Museum of Illusions was first founded in Zagreb, Croatia, by two entrepreneurial gentlemen with a strong passion for the cognitive sciences. And after, exploring illusion exhibits at science museums and different pop-up exhibitions, they envisioned creating a museum that was entirely dedicated to optical illusions. Because at that time, it really didn't exist. You would see exhibits that were passing through, maybe a few, illusions that were tied into a science exhibit, but they wanted the entire
Mhm.
thing to be illusion based. So they quickly partnered with, a team of architects and designers and really curated this museum and all of the exhibits inside of it. So they brought that idea to life, and it quickly became a favorite among both locals and visitors to Zagreb. And its success really paved the way for franchising. And they started franchising this museum in Europe and the Middle East originally. And then by 2018, the first US location opened in New York City. So, now today, the Museum of Illusions has expanded to over 58 locations around the globe. And it's captivating audiences with its blend of entertainment and education and really just visual wonder.
And here we see in Quincy Marketplace the Boston Museum, great location. And as people enter and step in, for those who haven't had the opportunity yet, could you share a little bit, give us a little overview before we enjoy some of the attractions?
Sure. So, I mean, the mission and philosophy of the Museum of Illusions really revolves around inspiring curiosity, wonder, and engagement through the fascinating world of optical illusions. The museum aims to provide a very interactive, very educational, and very entertaining experience for visitors of all ages. And by blending these cognitive science concepts, art, design, the museum really encourages guests to question their perceptions and explore the mechanics of the mind while appreciating the beauty of illusions.
And I think it also takes advantage of all of our fascination with our phones and just seeing the many pictures that were taken either by visitors or staff members helping is another nice feature of the museum. Some great remembrances.
Yes, and that's what it's about is making, that learning and that experience memorable. And people make those memories through their camera phones. And they like to share what they're doing with their friends, their family. And it's a really interesting how society has changed, and it's really led to the fast, I think, growth of Museum of Illusions. Is it is such a highly visually engaging museum, and people want to share that with their friends and family.
Now, I have to say, when I got back and mentioned it to a few friends and family members, they said, "Oh yeah, I've been seeing that on Instagram." So it's definitely out there. Let's start by just getting a little sense. This is one of the first opportunities when you enter the Boston Museum, and it does sort of give it a little local flair with Benjamin Franklin's history in the area.
Yes, yes, for sure. And and obviously, as you mentioned, chose Benjamin Franklin for a reason, being here in Boston. But this exhibit is called our Following Eyes exhibit. It's really interesting how, and this is a good lead into the museum for the reason being that we as humans see, we have two eyes, so we have binocular vision. And a camera, on the other hand, has one eye or one lens, of course. So we see things very differently than a camera can see them. So this is kind of guest's first introduction to that, because when you look at this exhibit, it looks like, this really cool mural on the wall, and these eyes that are concave. We play with a lot of concave and convex shapes in the museum, but these concave
Hmm.
eyes, but the illusion really pops when you actually hold up your camera phone and you look behind that camera lens and you walk back and forth, you'll see Ben Franklin's eyes following you back and forth.
Yes.
It's really pretty wild how differently we see things through a camera versus, our own two eyes. And sometimes that camera will deceive us a little bit too, which we'll find out, as we talk about some more exhibits as well. But this is where I really like to teach people, if you feel like you're not seeing an illusion pop, either cover one eye, which kind of gives you
Hmm.
the same effect, or just look through your camera lens.
Nice, nice. Good advice for sure. Here's one that sort of gets at a lot of the features, just the perception of this. A few words about what we're enjoying now.
Of course, yes, this is our tilted room. So right here, another way the camera deceives us a little bit is the camera's not showing you the whole picture, and it can't. And when you are here at the Museum of Illusions, you will see that there is an intense angle in this floor, this tilted room that these folks are standing in, and the camera can't capture it. The camera makes it seem as though they're on a completely flat, normal square room. They're not, but it does create the illusion that they're able to defy gravity in a way here
Yeah,
in our tilted room.
that's fabulous, fabulous. Oh, and the Infinity Room. Let
Yeah,
viewers know what they can look forward to.
of course, yeah. So that's when you have to push open that door and find out for yourself. But the Infinity Room is really, it's a hexagon shaped room with mirrors on all sides, floor to ceiling, and it creates the illusion of infinite space. So you go inside. It's a great. A lot of people love their selfies these days, so it's a great room for people to go in and snap those selfies. But it's really cool to just envision what that infinite space actually looks like.
One of the staff members gave me some very helpful advice as I was entering to make sure, remember the door leading out.
To make
Uh,
sure you could exit, yes.
exactly, because I could see just still be there if I maybe didn't get that little tip.
It's
But that,
challenging, yes.
that was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Oh, how about this? Speaking of illusion.
Yeah, so this one is our tribute, I guess, to the local excitement around basketball culture lately, especially, with a nice championship win recently with the Boston Celtics. So we wanted to play off of that, in strong, intense basketball culture here in Boston. So we created our reversed room modeled after a basketball court. So what this actually is now, it looks like she is completely defying gravity here
Yeah.
in this room. But in reality, when you're at the museum, this room is flipped upside down. So it looks like she is upside down, but in reality, she is not. The room is flipped upside down. And then when you take that photo, you flip that picture, you create these really surprising images that are sure to fool your friends and family.
How do you and others go about trying to make this type of museum experience accessible, enjoyable for all ages?
Yeah, that's really important to us, because we invite visitors of all ages to come into the museum, and creating it, to make an accessible space for people. That's really important as well. It's very, you know, the illusions can we created different kinds of illusions that are going to cater to diverse audiences. And it's important that we really want to appeal to them, make it accessible, of course, and, be interactive. I think that interactivity element is really helpful for people to learn a little bit more and understand what it is that they're experiencing. So we really strive to make it accessible for all people, all ages, all different learning styles. Like you mentioned, we do have the explanations next to each exhibit, but we've also got staff there that's willing to help and demonstrate and support people in that learning.
And it's also a museum that's accessible for people with different languages.
Yes.
I know I heard a couple of languages, different languages, when I was visiting, because the type of activities where language isn't the key driving force to engage, and you can experience and have a lot of fun and learn some things as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing is, the language we want, because Boston gets visitors from all over the world. It's such an international city. So we try to do everything we can. And also the exhibits are just so visual. You really don't have to necessarily know a particular language to be able to enjoy them and have fun.
Most definitely. Let's continue our tour with this amusing one.
Yes, so this one right here, this is a forced perspective illusion. Definitely a classic one here at the Museum of Illusions. And this one is called the Boucher chair. So here in the photo, it very much looks like a chair. We've got a small person in a large chair. But in fact, it's not a chair at all. That is the illusion about it. When you're at the museum, this chair is made up of separate pieces. And when you step back and you have the right forced perspective, they all come together to create what looks like a chair.
It's great. It's great. Oh, this was a lot of fun going in the kaleidoscope. And a great picture opportunity as well.
This one is a great picture opportunity. And, with this exhibit, I will say too, we're really not a high-tech museum at all. I would say this exhibit right here is probably our highest tech kind of exhibit here, and it's really just an LED screen. So, but this one, it's really just cool to walk into. It gives people the feeling that they're walking into an actual kaleidoscope. The kaleidoscopes we used to play with. We've actually got some in our smart
Yeah,
shop at the museum. But kaleidoscopes are always a source of wonder for me when I was a child, and I'm sure for many others. And it's pretty awesome to feel like you're walking inside of this giant kaleidoscope. So, and as you mentioned, it is great for photos as well.
definitely, definitely. Have there been any exhibits or illusions that have surprised you with their popularity or stood out?
It's different for everybody that comes into the museum, which is really, really unique. And I think that's also really special. We have a lot of fan favorite exhibits. There is one illusion actually where while the museum is so visual and you usually just have to look at the illusion to see, it move or disappear or flash when in reality it's not. We have one exhibit that you actually walk into and you feel it. You feel the illusion. You don't necessarily see it, but you feel it in your body. And it's pretty incredible. That one always that is called our vortex tunnel. It always gives people love that one. They remember that one because they remember how they felt when they experienced it. But everybody likes different ones, and sometimes it's the most simple illusions that we have that are the most shocking for people. We have these big immersive rooms, but we've also got, smaller exhibits as
Yeah.
well. And it is pretty neat to see what resonates with different audiences.
In addition, there are also some very engaging education games and puzzles.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We do have a smart playroom, which we kind of call a brain gym as well. We're all about using your brain in a different way and thinking outside the box at the museum. So having this, playroom area is really key to our experience. It's a really special area in the museum, and it's really just it's a room, and we have a number of large, what we call dilemma games in there.
Mm.
So people can challenge their friends and family to some friendly competition. They, play these dilemma games and they're quite challenging. It really involves a lot of logic. It involves problem solving. And honestly, doing these games, it is so good for your brain. It's a great brain exercise. And we'll see, friends and family, team up and try to solve puzzles together. And we'll see complete strangers do the same thing and to solve puzzles together. But that is it's a cool area of our museum. And it's an area that some people spend a lot of time in. They get started with a puzzle and they're not leaving till they solve it. And that's fine. We want them to experience all of them.
With all the educational opportunities, is there any collaboration or thoughts of collaboration with schools?
Yes, absolutely. So we do field trips first and foremost at the museum, usually for grades 3 and up, because we have found that at that age, that's typically when children are understanding how optical illusions are really kind of tricking their brain. But people like to call optical illusions a trick of the eye. I like to call them a trick of the mind, because I feel like that's exactly what is being tricked when you experience optical illusions. So we find that older children, teens and adults, really understand and get the most out of their experience. So, but we do offer, field trips. Actually, teachers, believe it or not, are free if they show their school ID when they
Oh,
come to the
fabulous.
museum, because it is such an educational opportunity and it's a fun science STEM based opportunity for them to, perhaps bring their students to one day or recommend to their students, because it really makes learning fun. But in addition to, schools, we work with different community organizations, especially as it relates to children, youth, and the sciences, because we are so science and STEM oriented at the museum, and being involved in the community is very key for us.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's continue with this illusion here.
Yeah, so this one is it makes for a pretty photo, that's for sure. This is our clone room. So this is a newer illusion. And you step inside this room and it appears that you clone yourself. The cool thing about that you can't even see with this photo is when you step into this room and then you look at the mirrors that are, slanted above your head, you almost feel as if you are standing on a slanted surface, and you begin to start to compensate for that and you realize, wait a minute, like I something's happening here. It looks like you feel like you're slanting, you're moving your body. So we have a lot of mirrors and a lot of angles at the museum, and it has this effect on people.
Definitely, definitely. Um, what are people gazing at here?
This one is really cool. This is called our dodecahedron. So we like to quiz people on how many sides a dodecahedron has, but it is a 12-sided figure, and it is a play on infinite space. It's created with mirrors and two-way mirrors, as well as some LED lights. And when you peer inside, it looks to continue for infinity.
Mm.
You can't see your own reflection, even though there are mirrors involved in creating it. And when you peer inside, it looks like a never-ending jungle gym. I've actually had children ask me if they could go inside of it because it looks like so much fun. Unfortunately, they can't, but it looks like it'd be a great time.
It's very enticing indeed. Great illusion here.
Yes, this is one of my favorites. This is called our Ames room, created by an American ophthalmologist named Adelbert Ames.
Uh,
And he created this room. And this room is another kind of forced perspective illusion as well, and often used in movie tricks, in Hollywood, to create size distortion. So in this room, it looks as though they're standing in a pretty normal square room, but in reality, they are not. And then this goes back to that monocular and binocular vision as well. So we, with our two eyes, in person can see the depth and angle this room has, but the camera does not capture it. We've also put the graphics on the wall and we've distorted those in a way so that way when you do take a picture or when you do look through a screen, it looks as though you're standing in a perfectly square room when in reality you're not. And when you walk into this room, you'll go in from one corner of the next, you'll appear to grow and shrink. And when you go in there with, friends, family, one just towers over the other
Yeah.
person, and the other person appears to be quite smaller than in reality. So this is one of my favorite rooms, and I also like just the history behind it. It's been around for a long time. I mean, it's in movies, like
Hmm.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Hobbit. So similar tricks like this are what filmmakers are using.
Nice, nice. Yeah. Needless to say, another great photo
It
opportunity.
is, it is.
What are these visitors enjoying?
So this one right here, this is a new illusion, and so it's really, really cool. It creates a very just kind of calming effect when you spin this. So it doesn't appear like it's much, and when you spin this, you start to see all of these particles kind of flowing in a certain direction. And you notice at the bottom, they're going a lot faster than they are at the top, and that has to do with very similar to how our weather patterns work here on the Earth. And when the Earth is spinning, the weather patterns, and the north and south have that different kind of speed of movement as opposed to more of like the center parts of the Earth. It's pretty interesting, and honestly, it's just a mesmerizing illusion to look at and play with, and it's very hands-on. Kids will be up here spinning it and oohing and eyeing. So kids do like this one. Anything that's hands-on, kids and families love.
Well, there's definitely no lack of mesmerizing opportunities at the museum for sure.
Right.
One more to just have a quick word about, please.
Sure. Yeah. So this one is called our Infinity Portal. So it looks as though it's a portal, and in reality, it's not. So when you peer inside this portal here, it looks as though it continues through the ground, you know, hundreds of feet below you, when in reality, it's not. It appears to be a well. It gets darker as you get down, and people can stand up on top of there. Some people are a little bit nervous and afraid too because they've got that fear of heights and they say, oh, no, 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 I cannot stand up there, but it is all an illusion. And then, of course, you can play around with those photos, flip them around, and it looked as though she was upside down going through the portal.
What advice might you give someone who hasn't had the opportunity to visit and are about to come to the museum to get the most out of the experience?
I think, what I like to tell people is to take your time with the illusions. Everybody sees illusions differently, and sometimes it takes a few moments for it to pop. People will look at a static image and not see anything right away, but then they'll kind of move their eyes around and they'll say, wait a minute, whoa, I see it moving, or I see it twisting or spinning. And it takes some time to do that. So we do encourage people to really take their time with these illusions, and also look at them from a different angle and a different perspective. When you look at some of these things, you'll see some size distortion, but if you maybe change your angle just ever so slightly, you'll see it in a different way.
Those are great tips, because I'm thinking of how most of us enter and visit museums and just spending really a few seconds, say in a work of art or something, and then
Mhm.
are eager to move on. So I think that's wonderful advice to give, especially as you're saying, for the perspectives to click in
Mhm.
when visiting the Museum of Illusions.
Yes.
Well, Stacy, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I want to thank you so much for being here, for giving us a wonderful overview, insight into the Museum of Illusions. It's off to a great start here in Boston. Continued success both here and beyond. Look forward to coming back and just want to say continued success with future endeavors.
Thank you very much, Jay. I appreciate it so much. Come back anytime you want. We'd be happy to have you.
Wonderful. Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.
no less than any other family.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.